Welcome back, everyone, for another episode of Dollar Bin Digging. This is the video and article that I do for comicbookinvest.com, where I talk about those books you can still probably find tucked away in those cheap boxes, those discount bins, those dollar boxes at your LCS, half-price books, yard sales, garage sales, wherever you're doing your cheap comic hunting. I'm sure you can find some of these titles buried in there based off of some of the recent news, rumors, announcements, and most importantly, things going on in the actual comics that were released this past week. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Please let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, you hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. And without further ado, I will get to this week's book so I can run this through before opening day starts, as my Phillies are about to kick off their season in about half an hour. So I want to get this done so I can go and enjoy the game. And with that, just hang on for a few seconds after the intro and I'll be right back. All right, so we are going to start it off with actual comics. So, new release books this week that came out that tie back into some character first appearances and some important storylines that we can all take a look back at, some books we can all go and hunt for fun this upcoming weekend when you're going and doing your digging. First book up, and the first few I'm going to start off with are with DC. So, over at DC, we did get the next installment of Justice League Unlimited number 5. This brings back the Legion of Doom. You remember the old school in the swamp Legion of Doom, headquarters back in the old school Super Friends days? Yeah, that's what it feels like, this squad coming back in this issue. Now, as part of this, it's not just the villains that were returned, but other characters that originated in that animated series and cartoon making their way into current continuity, but they have been here before. Most notably, Thunderlord, right here. This character, Thunderlord, first showed up on the show, found his way into the comics a long way back. Now they're kind of bringing him back into modern day. This is the character I want to talk about. So, Thunderlord. He first showed up, as you might guess, in the Super Friends comic book from way back in November 1977. This book is as old as I am. Super Friends, number 8, is the book where we can find not only Red Tornado, the Wonder Twins, and I believe the Wonder Twins' first appearance was the issue before this. So that is definitely one to keep an eye out for, because that one is pretty pricey. This one might get overlooked by comparison. So that's why you might be able to dig and find this one for cheap. Inside this book, we do get Thunderlord right here, running along with Black Canary in this book. And that would be Thunderlord's first appearance. Now, I couldn't find any single sales in the last 3 months that I could point to, but I can tell you available copies can range anywhere from like $10, $12, $20, and there are more expensive copies. When you get to the higher grade raws and even some graded copies, yes, the prices will go up, but by and large, 10 to 20 bucks is the asking price for, a mid to lower grade copy of this book. Again, none have sold because this isn't like a hugely popular character that everybody's hunting for. It's kind of a fun little tie-in and a fun book you can go and dig for. And it's got a dinosaur on the front. Can't go wrong with a dinosaur on the cover. So just a fun little book to keep an eye out for when you're out there doing your digging, if you want to tie in with some DC stuff. And who knows what other Super Friends characters or Superpowers and Super Friends type characters might be showing up in this Justice League Unlimited series going forward. Now, apart from that, we do have 2 more DC books that I want to hit up really quickly as we roll through this show. First one being Green Lantern number 21. I've been enjoying Green Lantern Corps, trying to give this regular Green Lantern title another shot to see if it's kind of going to hook me. And in doing so, we do got a return of an older character here who's right on the cover, and that is this villain Starbreaker. So yes, he is on the cover, but he is also right here in the opening pages of this book, and he's a character that goes back a little bit of a ways here. So, Starbreaker. Cool. Stands out. Interesting look. Purple skin. I don't know. Kind of fits the Green Lantern universe. A little bit of a Nosferatu, Dracula kind of hairdo thing going here, but hey, it is what it is. It is not Sinestro. This is Starbreaker. And Starbreaker first appeared in Justice League of America back in 1971. December of 1971 to be precise. And the reason why he has that Nosferatu haircut is because apparently he's a cosmic vampire. So he's got to stick with the cliches that we would expect of vampires, in our universe, I guess. With that said, He is right there on the cover. You get everything introduced. It's not hard to figure out if this is his first or not. They kind of tell you right at the outset. But inside the book, he is there as well. As Starbreaker is unique among galactic humans. Yeah, whatever. Energy vampire, whatever you want to call it. This is him right here. Now, this book, you can see with some recent sales, can go for a couple of bucks. $10 to be precise. It's not a super duper expensive book, but those are on the lower grade. Well, that one actually says 7.5. The other one's very good to find, so you still got that mid-grade kind of copy. Well, it's only about $10 with recent sales. Asks could be a little bit higher, as you can see. They can go anywhere from $9 to $17, as high as $75. Very fine 8.5 is asking for. So if you find a nice copy, you might be closer to that $75 mark, and yet you might only be paying the $10 to $15 price. Just saying. Even if you can't find it at a dollar bin, you can still do some cheap comic hunting when I tell you about these books too. So that's why I give you the prices. So in case you can't find them for super duper cheap, maybe you still find them in a priced bin for cheap as well. Just knowing pricing helps. Now, that's our second DC book. And as I mentioned at the outset, I've got one more for you. And that is this week's issue of Harley Quinn. So Harley Quinn number 49. Once again, the big bad we're talking about is right here on the cover. It's Amygdala. Yeah, weird name, but yeah, Amygdala Vista baby on the cover. You might not know that's the character's name, but it is. And here he is inside the guts of this book, as well as sort of a huge gruntish bellhop is how he's being utilized in this book. So, okay. It's a far cry from where we first were introduced to him as part of that Zaz introduction storyline way back in the day. But that is where we were introduced to this character of Amygdala. And here's a better look at him. He goes all the way back to 1992 in that Shadow of the Bat last Arkham series. So Shadow of the Bat number 3 is that first appearance. Great cover there. I remember this run. It's a good run. It's a good read. Good run. Again, it's the introduction to Zaz back in the day. But apart from that, we also get to meet Helsinger, Aaron Helsinger, a.k.a. Amygdala. This huge, giant beast of a man also locked up in Arkham. This is him right here. So, yeah, easy, cheap book to find. This is the definition of dollar bin fodder. Yet, we can see copies might sell for a few bucks. I mean, $3 a copy sold for a newsstand. That's the only single issue I can find. A lot of lots of this 4-issue storyline can sell, but this is the only single issue I could find that sold recently. And asks could be as cheap as $2, $4, or up to $9. It all depends. But those are asks just to give you a sense of what people are asking for this book. But this is something you can definitely find in those cheap boxes. Now, that's our DC side of things. And before we move on, I want to remind any of you out there who haven't tried Whatnot yet to use my link down below. Sign up and get yourselves a free $15 on your first purchase. You'll help out the channel. You get yourself something nice. You can spend that $15 with whomever you want on whatever you want. There's no strings attached. Just trying out the app, you get yourself $15 on that first purchase. Now, with that said, I'm going to actually go back a week because I didn't get a copy of this week's Thundercats, but I did get a copy of Thundercats Lost, which came out last week, and the character I believe is in both anyway, so that's what we're going to talk about here. And he's right front and center on this particular cover that I chose for Thundercats Lost, and that is this blue guy right here. And inside the guts of this book, yes, looks like a white tiger. That's who we're talking about. This is the character Bengali, if I'm pronouncing it right. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing it right. Looks kind of like Tigra, but white. So a white Tigra. First appearance of this character goes way back and overseas. So if you want the first comic appearance of Bengali, you got to get the Thundercats UK edition, issue 60. So these are those very thin magazine-sized comics that came out of the UK. I know you've seen them for the Action Force, G.I. Joes, Transformers as well, but they also had Thundercats. And this run actually ran like 129-ish issues, I think, something like that. And some of them are pretty pricey because they're not easy to find. And you sometimes, I know I've come across these at flea markets. I've come across some of these UK books just jammed in with magazines and other comic books. So they don't quite fit the short box right, and they're kind of wrapped around, may not be in the best shape. But I've come across these things for cheap before, and they're always worth looking out for. Paper is very delicate, very thin, so they are easily ruined, destroyed. But if you pay a cheap enough price, it doesn't matter. You can still enjoy it. That said, May of 1988, right there on the cover, so I don't got to show you the guts of this thing. But this book, As you might guess, not a lot of sales. Couldn't find any examples of sales. There were a couple of lots, but it was like for a huge run, and the prices you can't really, you can't really get a good sense of what somebody would pay for this. So only thing I got free is an asking price, and there is one listed with somebody seeking $15 for one of these things, which seems about right. These rando issues of the Thundercats run could be anywhere in like that $10 to $15 range, and then those harder to find late run issues and the final issues can get up into triple digits, just so you're aware. So keeping that in mind when you're out there digging. With that said, if this seems like too tough an ask for you to go and find a Marvel UK book, well, fair enough. The first US stateside appearance that I could find for this character was in the Wildstorm issue of Thundercats #1 back in 2002. And he's just part of the squad, right here. Bengali's just with the rest, with Panthro and Chitara and the rest of them, and Lino, obviously. He's just part of the squad in this issue. So there's no special, like, hey, introduction at this stage. Again, this is 2002. That other book was from 1988. Character's been around for a while, so there's no need to do a special introduction. But this would be the first stateside appearance in comics that we could point to. And this book, again, not very expensive. Copies could sell for like $4 to $6, and even that $6 is for issues 1 and 2 together. And then we have individual asks, $5, $6, $8. There are also a couple of covers on this thing. As you can see, we've got the Art Adams, and then there is an Ed McGuinness who does do the interiors, and they are pretty cool interiors as well. So Ed McGuinness doing the guts of the book also gets a cover too. So 2 covers on this. Keep an eye out for either. Now, as we're going to move on over to Marvel, I wanted to point out the fact that we did get a new Marvel facsimile this week, and I asked the question, why? Here's the book. We got Marvel Fanfare 15, which, yes, it is a classic thing, story, cover, etc. But why do we need a facsimile of this book? Because it just doesn't seem to make sense to go and pay $5 for a brand new facsimile, unless you just want it on nicer paper for a book that you can go and find still for about the same price, if not cheaper. Let's go find the original from 1984, because this Marvel Fanfare issue is out there. You can go and dig for it. You can find one for $5 and less. Look, copy sold $2.50, $4.20, $3. Asking prices about $5, which is again about the cost of a brand new facsimile issue. So you make the choice of what you want. Do you want the original, or do you just want a copy of the original on new paper? Again, I'll give you that. It's on nicer paper, but just saying. Usually with the facsimiles, it's because the book is pricey, you can't afford the original, they're not easy to find, etc. This case, you choose which one you'd rather have. Now, taking that, moving on from there, we're going to stick with Marvel and go with some of this Doom stuff. So, first off, we're going with Thunderbolts Doomstrike issue 2. So this is the second issue of this Doomstrike miniseries as part of One World Under Doom. It's kind of focusing in on the Thunderbolts. Character I kind of want to point out here is an older character, but with a newer persona. So, who I'm talking about here is Sharon Carter. We all know Sharon Carter at this point. She's played pivotal roles in both the comics and even in the MCU. In the comics, I mean, she technically was the one who shot Steve Rogers. Granted, the gun put him back in time, and then he came back anyway. So she didn't really kill Captain America, but you guys remember the story. Anyway, that was Sharon Carter, Agent 13 at the time. We've also seen her in the MCU, and they're trying to turn her into the power broker over there, more of a villainous character, as opposed to the good guy she's been for decades in the Marvel Universe. But here, in this issue that I'm about to point out, we have the character that she's now going by the name of Destroyer. It's a long story, alternate universe, kid type stuff, anger issues. Destroyer is her current, I guess, moniker. And this is her look that she is taken on with it, with a kind of a skull mask, which is also kind of cool. It's a cool look. I can't complain about that. But first off, let's just say Sharon Carter's been around a while, as I said. First appearance, not something you're going to find for $1. You're not going to find it in a cheap box. But in case you want to know what it is Tales of Suspense number 75. So if you want to know what Sharon Carter's first appearance is, it is Tales of Suspense 75. No, that's not her on the cover. That's the Iron Man story. She's part of the Cap story, which is in the back with Captain America going, man, that girl looks familiar. Man, she looks like somebody I know. And he kind of stalks her for a bit. But yeah, there she is. Later, we're revealed to who she is and her relation to, with Peggy Carter, etc. We get that later, but this was her first introduction in comics. Again, you're not going to find that for for a couple bucks. So I just wanted to tell you about it. But what you can find for cheap is her first appearance as the new Destroyer character, or her new moniker of Destroyer. And that was in Captain America Cold War Omega, the last part of that storyline, which is only a couple years old. This was from June of 2023, after all. And inside the guts of this book, she dons this, skull mask and says, "You can call me Destroyer now." So there is where she takes on that new name. And it's a book you could find definitely for cheap. Multiple covers here as well. But this is the cover A that I wanted to show you. So copies, you can see, still around cover price. Copies are selling $4 to $5, but there are some listed for even less than that, as they're listed for like $2 up to $5. So even online, you can find this for less than cover. So I'm sure you can go dig at your LCS and find it in a discount bin at some rate, whether it be half off cover, $2, $1, whatever it may be. I'm sure you could still find this one for cheap as well. And again, it's kind of a fun little side thing. It's not her first. It's her first with a new name. So I know we can hem and haw about how important that makes this book. Is it a key, etc.? I'm not here to go through semantics like that. I'm just pointing out fun stuff and fun storylines and books that you can go and find for cheap. I'm not saying they need to be more expensive than they are. I'm saying they are cheap and you can find them. Some other cases, I might point out books that are a little more expensive than you might know, than you might think. But in this case, this is something that is already cheap. Now, with that said, before I move on to my last Marvel book, because it's got a lot of characters in it and it's going to take a little bit of time to get through it, I want to remind any of you out there who are shopping for supplies, I use BCW for my bags and boards and boxes, etc. So if you need supplies, you can use the link below, but definitely use my code RENA10 to save yourself 10% off your entire order over at BCW. Get your bags, your boards, long boxes, short boxes, CGC boxes, top loaders, pages for cards, whatever you need to keep your comics and collectibles safe. BCW's probably got a product for you, and you can save 10% off by using my code RENA10. You help out the channel, you get yourself a discount, you really got nothing to lose there. So with that said, let's get to that last Marvel book that I want to cover for today, and that is another Doom book that ties into One World Under Doom, Doom's Division #1. So new little spin-off side tale, and you can tell just by looking on the cover who we're covering, and even the name kind of harkens back to Tiger Division. So basically, the guts of this team starts off with Tiger Division, and then it grows from there as they kind of tackle on other characters, which I'll get to in a minute. But let's start with the Tiger Division part of it. So Doom Division #1 opens up with, the whole Tiger Division squad here. We're going to go through these characters individually because a lot of them show up in the same book. So our first guy here, the General, looks a bit like a totem pole tiki thing with a huge, fist of destiny or whatever. Hellboy's fist with, I don't know. Interesting looking character, the General. Okay, so we got the General. He first showed up in Black Cat Annual #1. Couple of different covers on this book. I'm only showing you this one because it's the cover A. Multiple characters show up in this because Tiger Division as a team is introduced here. So inside the guts of this book, very early on, you get to meet most of these characters for the first time. So here's the General, and we're going to go through everybody else here on this screen. Now, moving on, before we get to pricing, I might as well just tell you, because it's all going to be the same book. So let's go through all the characters. Also, as you saw in that opening panel from the current Doom's Division, we saw this guy in the corner, Mr. Enigma, kind of like a Jack Hawksmoor from The Authority. He's like the spirit of soul, of like the city of soul. I don't know. Weird, wonky stuff. It's comics. But Mr. Enigma here even kind of steals his look. I'm rocking a gray suit. I don't know. I guess that's what they were going for. But Mr. Enigma was also introduced in that same book, in that same panel in Black Cat Annual #1. So over on the other side here of the General, we've got him just chilling out. There's Mr. Enigma. Next, in the big jumping screen, we got Gunner 2. Gunner 2, another character. Wearing like a sort of a power suit with the kind of cyborg-esque, Iron Man-ish kind of thing going for him. Gunner 2, also introduced in that same book, Black Cat Annual #1. So yeah, this is a book to keep an eye out for, because you can see you get multiple first appearances here. He's right over here. Not done. One more to go for this book. And that's this character down here on the bottom of this panel. This is Lady Bright. Now, Lady Bright with the eye patch, wasn't always known as Lady Bright. Previously, she had an even worse name, Auntie Auntie. I'm assuming is how it was pronounced. Auntie Auntie, maybe, if you want to say it that way. But yeah, I think we've done better. Lady Bright's still not the greatest name, but Auntie Auntie, it definitely isn't what you want to go by. Who you strike fear in the hearts of criminals everywhere. It's Auntie Auntie. I don't get it. Anyway, eye patch. Looks like she got gambling powers. I don't know. I'm just playing around. But Auntie Auntie, Lady Bright, also first appears in that same book, that Black Cat annual. And you saw her, as I've shown this panel 4 times now. She's over here in this corner. She's a canny gambler sorceress with a deck of magical playing cards who is older than she looks. So there you go. Oh, and I guess Gunner 2 was actually a robot. So my bad. He's a robot, not a cyborg, I guess. So, okay, we got that too. And yeah, the totem is how I described the general. And Mr. Enigma, unkillable brawler, god of the soul streets. So once again, weird city powers. You notice I skipped Luna Snow there in the middle, but don't worry, we'll get back to her in a minute. This isn't her first appearance. That's why we're not talking about this book. But for all the other 4, this is their first appearance. And this book can go for a few bucks. $5 to $10, depending on the cover. Yes, there is a second print that has Tiger Division on the cover. Something else you might want to look for, because some folks like those second prints where the interior team is on the cover. Granted, they're on the cover here of the cover A as well. They're just not the focus, because it is Black Cat Annual #1. Black Cat is getting the focus. Anyway, even this book listed $5, $6, and one of those is $5 for a second print. It's not a pricey book. You can find this cover price or less if you go out there digging. Now, a lot of firsts, so that's a good book to go and keep an eye out for cheap, I would think, because you get 4 bites at the apple. If any of these characters hit on their own, or we get this team in anything, this would be something that people start looking for once again. It popped once back in the day. It did hit the spec cycle before. Maybe it hits there again. Who knows? But apart from that crew of characters, and no, we're not going to get to Luna Snow yet. She'll be next. But first, front and center, right here in the middle, we're going to go with this guy. Taguchi, if I'm saying his name right? Taguchi? I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not going to try any further. We're talking about this guy right here. He showed up, again, in a book that actually was pricey at one time. It's still a little bit, but not near where it was. So anyway, as like one of the founding members of this Tiger Division, we got to go back to February 2021 in Taskmaster #3. Yes, Taskmaster #3 is a book that, again, it got popular at one time. There's also a very expensive variant that goes with this, 1 in 25. There's a second print that features this panel and him on the cover. Boom, right there. So Tiger Division gets its start here. And now it's Doom Division. As I mentioned, this was one-time pricey. This book can sell for cheap, though. I mean, look at that. That's the complete 5-issue set that somebody won at auction for $3.34. That's $3.34 for 5 comic books. It can be found for cheap if you know how to look and where to look. At the same time, that individual book also sold for $15 on its own. It's all about listing. It's all about being clear when you're trying to sell to get the most money. It's also about the listing and how it's being sold if you want to try to sneak and hunt deals like somebody got by getting the entire 5-issue complete set for only $3.34 because they did not call out this issue and the first appearance. Just saying. Sometimes you got to do some digging and do some searches. Also, the 5-issue set could sell for as much as $25. Context. Asking prices, it could be anywhere from like 10 to 15 bucks, maybe even more pricier, but that's by and large what we're looking at here. Now, there is our 5th member. We still have more. This is a big team. We're going back now to Luna Snow, who doesn't get her name mentioned because she was in the issue prior to this in other panels and pages. She already got her name called out and introduced, but as part of the big splash page, she is right up there at the top. Now, this is another character I'm sure we've all heard of and known about for a while now, as she's been specced upon pretty heavily over the last few years. We got Marvel Rivals, she's been involved in that, and then we've got Agents of Atlas, etc. So, with that, Luna Snow's first appearance is this book, which has gotten hot and cold and hot and cold and hot and cold. I don't know how many times over the last few years. But going back to May of 2021, War of the Realms, New Agents of Atlas, #1, many first appearances in this book as well. But one of them is Luna Snow right here. So, boom. Spotlighter, there she is. Also in this book, and revealed to be part of this new Doom Division team later, we're going back to Doom Division to show you this panel at the back end. So you had Tiger Division. They're adding on characters that were part of Agents of Atlas Plus. So here's a couple of Agents of Atlas characters that they're tacking on with Luna Snow. So Luna Snow's former compadres. We have Wave. We're going to start here first with Wave from the Philippines. Half of me, half my home country. She's right there. Her first appearance. And again, here's Wave to give you another look at her. She also had an appearance in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man as Peter Parker's crush. The new animated series over on Disney Plus. Thought that was kind of a fun twist. She also first appeared in this Agents of Atlas book. So multiple first, as I mentioned. So there, another one to look out for. Another reason to look out for this book. And again, you finding this for $1 at this point is probably going to be cheap. It's probably going to be hard, but you never know how you can find this for cheap. You never know. But there she is right there. Also, in that other panel showing the new members joining the team is Arrow from China. So another character from that original Agents of Atlas book. We have Arrow. So there you go. She's got like wind powers. Wave, obviously, is water powers. Also, first appeared in War of the Realms New Agents of Atlas #1. She was on that same page as Wave, but further down below. Li Ling, Arrow. Boom, home base Shanghai. This book, again, it's gotten pricey, come down, pricey, come down. It's generally $10 to $20 these days, depending where you want to go. $10, $22. Asking price, the same kind of thing. $10, $26. Inconsistent. It's been up and down. It will probably continue to be that way for a while now. With that said, there was one other character on that page we did not yet cover because she is not related to any of that stuff directly. And that is Karma from Vietnam over here. So again, taking all of these countries over in Asia, we're making this super squad that's now Doom Division. Karma. Here she is. And we've talked about her before. I forget why we brought her up. I think she was in another title that I covered. But we have talked about her and this first appearance before. It just seems as if it's been a while. But Karma first appeared way, way, way back. September 1980, Marvel Team Up #100. Even says her name right there on the cover. Anyway, this is her inside the guts of this book. We get her backstory, her origin, etc. I believe she can like possess people or something. She's got some sort of strange mutantish type powers because she has had a run with the New Mutants. But Marvel Team Up #100 is her first appearance. And this book, despite the fact that it goes back to 1980, still ain't that expensive. Look, copies have sold for $5 to $12. Asking prices are about $10 to $15, depending on condition. Higher grade, higher prices, etc. Lower grade, you might find them for cheap. But with that all said, that's all I got for you this week. Hopefully you found that interesting. Hopefully I gave you a couple of books that you can keep on your mind when you're out there digging, because that's why I do this. It's information. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of information. You do with it what you will. I have fun doing this. Hopefully you have fun going through these books with me. And with that said, I'll see you all soon with some more content. All right.